All of the hot takes about Jayden Daniels being better than Caleb Williams all of a sudden are short-sighted and prisoner of the moment. And the people comparing Caleb Williams to Justin Fields, now that's just stupid.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1, and you can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On the show today, we look at the comparisons that really aren't real comparisons between Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels as the two top picks in this draft after Jayden Daniels had such a big game on Monday Night Football, and all of a sudden, everybody's ready to jump off the Caleb Williams train and say, oh, we knew all along Jayden Daniels was the better quarterback. But when you take a closer look, Jayden Daniels had a great game, but there's a lot of difference in what the Commanders are asking Daniels to do compared to what the Bears are asking Caleb Williams to do. And I'm not so sure that all of a sudden Daniels is just going to be this better quarterback. He had a great game. I don't know that it's going to be sustainable in that same way. And I also want to poke some holes in the Caleb Williams comparisons to Justin Fields, where you have a rookie quarterback in his third game versus a quote-unquote veteran quarterback in his fifth season, and how even so Justin Fields is playing well, similarly, the Steelers aren't asking Justin Fields to do a whole lot in that offense. And then we'll kind of look at, okay, then what should we be comparing Caleb Williams to, and how do we measure his progress in real, tangible ways? But I think I was most bothered by the Justin Fields comparisons when you have a rookie versus a veteran. Like, at least when it's Caleb versus Jayden Daniels, okay, it's two first-year players in their third game. Like, they're going to be compared to each other along with, Drake May and the other young quarterbacks over the course of their careers. Because everyone's going to wonder, who was the best quarterback in the draft class? Like, we'll get into that one in a little bit here. But, like, can we all agree that taking a rookie quarterback in his third game and putting him against that team's former starting quarterback in his fifth season doesn't make a ton of sense in any direction? That, like, yes, obviously the quarterback who's been doing this for 5 seasons should be better than the rookie quarterback in his third game. But I also think it's important to put in the context too that even though, Justin Fields is 3-0 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's having a good season by his standards, he's taking care of the football and generally, playing well. It's not as though he and the Pittsburgh Steelers offense are like lighting it up in some way that the Bears should be jealous of and wish that their offense was scoring 17 points per game, which ranks 24th in the NFL, whereas the Bears are scoring 17.7 points per game, which ranks 22nd in the NFL. So the Bears are outscoring Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. I'm not here to take anything away from how well Justin Fields has played. His box scores have looked good. His PFF grades have looked good. Like, he's generally been an effective, efficient quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they're not asking him to do a ton overall. When you look at the position the Steelers are putting him in, they're making life easy on Justin Fields, which is great and what a team should do for their quarterback. But they're making Justin Fields' life a lot easier than the Chicago Bears are making Caleb Williams. Like, when you look at some of the advanced offensive metrics here. Again, I'm not trying to make the argument like that Caleb is better than Justin, because, again, one's a fifth-year quarterback, one's a third-game quarterback. But I do want to make the argument that the Steelers aren't asking Justin Fields to do a whole lot, and that's working very nicely. And maybe if Caleb were in a similar situation, he would also be doing a little bit better there. Like, when you look at how the Steelers offense uses Justin Fields, among quarterbacks in the NFL, Justin Fields has run play action at the third highest rate of any QB in the league. They run a lot of play action in Pittsburgh. And that, of course, gets the defense to bite on the running game and then opens some things up behind it and helps get quarterbacks into a rhythm. Whereas the Bears, with Caleb Williams through 3 games, rank 26th in play action usage. Fields is third, Caleb is 26. So Fields is getting a lot of play action, which is not to take anything away from Justin. It's just to say, like, yeah, the Steelers are doing things to put Justin in a better position to succeed there than what Caleb is getting in terms of play action. You look at what the quarterbacks are doing with the ball, how often they're throwing check down passes. Caleb Williams throws the highest, Justin Fields throws the highest percentage of check down passes in the NFL. The highest percentage of his passes that have gone to checkdowns, more than any other quarterback by percentage. He's throwing checkdowns. That's not a criticism of Fields. It's just to say, like, that offense is like a lot of play action, check it down and let playmakers make plays. That's great. It's working well for them and working well for Justin. Whereas Caleb Williams, check down percentage 18th among quarterbacks, middle of the pack. He's not checking it down a ton. He's taking a lot more shots downfield. He's trying to open up the offense more than what Justin Fields is doing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, Fields is taking a lot more of the easier stuff, and it's helping them win games, and he's managing the game very well. But that's what he is doing. He's much more of a game manager in Pittsburgh, and Caleb has had to be the guy in Chicago. Like, you've seen Caleb Williams open things up a lot more than Justin Fields has. Caleb Williams is deep throws. He is, as a percentage of his total attempts, his percentage of throws that go 20 or more yards in the air is the fourth highest in the NFL. Top 5 in the number of times he's taking deep shots, percentage-wise. Caleb is throwing it downfield a lot. Justin Fields, 26th in deep throw percentage. He's not taking a lot of shots downfield. He's checking it down a lot. He's taking play action. Again, not criticisms, just pointing out that, like, yeah, maybe it's easier for Justin to have a higher completion percentage and, nice. He's just taking care of the football. And that's valuable, but, like, it's the Steelers that are making life easier for him and not asking him to do so much the way the Bears are asking Caleb Williams. So if you just look at, like, average depth of target, how far downfield on average is Caleb Williams throwing the ball versus Justin Fields throwing the ball. Caleb's average depth of target is the 7th highest in the NFL. Justin Fields, 30th. So you're kind of seeing this picture of, again, not how well the two quarterbacks are playing per se, but how the quarterbacks are being used within their offenses. And with Justin, it's a lot of, like, simplifying stuff, check it down, underneath stuff, dink and dunk, take care of the football, be safe with it. And with Caleb, it's a lot more, hey, it's on your shoulders. We're down 14. We need you to go out and make some plays. And he throws the balls downfield and has not been nearly accurate enough on some of those downfield throws. But the point being, like, yes, no one's here to say Caleb is somehow a better quarterback after 3 games than what Justin Fields is in five seasons. But also, if you just look at this year, the Steelers are doing a really good job of, like, not making Justin Fields have to do so much. They're the number 1 defense in football. Justin Fields can just take the checkdowns, run the play action, run the ball. You don't have to take a lot of deep shots. He's only passing for 172 yards a game. Like, Caleb's averaging more passing yards per game because they're just not asking Fields to do so much. And that's worked out great for Fields. But eventually there's going to come a time when he is going to need to do a little bit more. And that's when we'll see, just how much progress he's made in his career, and also, give Caleb Williams a couple of years to see if he can get to a lot closer to where someone like Justin Fields is at this point. And so that's where it's like, okay, can we knock off some of the nonsense there and let a rookie quarterback be a rookie quarterback, and let a 5th-year quarterback that we all are rooting for and love and want to see be successful, like, let's be happy for him in Pittsburgh without it saying, oh, Bears made a mistake here moving on from Fields. Look at how well he's playing in Pittsburgh. It's like, well, he's got a great defense, and they're not asking him to do a ton. They're certainly asking him to do less than they ever asked him to do in Chicago, and it's working well for them, but it's much more game manager than, like, game changer or game breaker for that Pittsburgh offense. Similarly, the comparisons between Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels, I think, miss some important context when you look at how the offense is utilizing Jayden Daniels in Washington versus what Caleb Williams is doing in Chicago. And I think, well, Jayden had a great game on Monday night, and I don't want to take anything away from that. It's in a different way from Fields. It's a lot more simple and not as much, advanced quarterbacking as opposed to what the Bears are asking Caleb Williams to do and really run the whole show from shotgun and under center here. So we'll look at the 2 rookie quarterbacks side by side to get a better sense of, like, hey, maybe what Caleb's doing is a little bit more sustainable, whereas Jayden had a big game, and we'll see just how long he can keep that up in the same way. So we'll compare the 2 rookie quarterbacks side by side next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, along with receiving unlimited 1% deposit bonuses and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on all IRA accounts. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. The Locked On Bears podcast is also brought to you by PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. I love playing on PrizePicks every week because PrizePicks puts me in complete control. Unlike some of the other daily fantasy platforms where you're picking a lineup and you're setting your lineup against 500 people's other lineups, and if you don't finish in first or second place, you're not really getting any money out of it. With PrizePicks, they put you against the numbers. They set stat projections for players, and you pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' projections. And when you get your picks right, you can watch the winnings roll in. You still have 1 week left here in September, 1 game left in September to take advantage of their Caleb Williams deal, where their stat projection for Caleb Williams is more or less than 1 passing yard. So you can pick Caleb to have more than 1 passing yard, and it's a free win on your player picks. You just have to pick a couple more, and you can start winning big with PrizePicks. So download the PrizePicks app today and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get that $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win your picks to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. I can understand why people want to instantly compare Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams after 3 games, and it's certainly, I think, a fairer comparison than Caleb Williams and Justin Fields. But I'm also here to make the argument that, yes, Jayden Daniels had a great game on Monday Night Football, and I don't want to take anything away from that. That's hard to complete that high of a completion percentage for as many yards. Like, he played very, very well in that game. I'm not as convinced that he has now unlocked quarterbacking and is going to be elite for the rest of the season. He's still going to make mistakes. He's going to get better. He's going to get worse. He's not going to have that game every single week. And I think there's some particular things about his performance in week 3 that stand out to me and over the course of the season so far as like signs that maybe that great game, which was great, not trying to undercut Jayden Daniels in that way, is not like a sign of what's still to come. And I think to put this in a Chicago Bears context for you, do you remember, I think it was 2018, so not his rookie season, but Mitch Trubisky, early in his Bears career, had a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers where he threw for 6 touchdowns and 300 some odd yards and a super high completion percentage. And we were like, whoa, Mitch Trubisky having his coming out party and just tore up a bad Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. That to me feels a bit like what we saw from Jayden Daniels. Still impressive. Don't take anything away from the quarterback for it, but not necessarily representative of what we're going to see from him over the rest of his career. Like, if you look at this week 3 game from Jayden Daniels against the Bengals compared to Caleb Williams against the Indianapolis Colts, and we're talking small sample size here, but if you look at like their passing charts side by side, you can really notice some really key differences between the 2 young quarterbacks and how they attacked defenses in these games here this past week in week 3. For Jayden Daniels, everything is very concentrated to the right and in the short to intermediate area of the field. It was a lot of kind of the same looks to the same side of the field. It was some hitches, some, the curls there, a couple slants, a couple ins, a couple outs. The route variety was there, but the read was similar a lot of the time. They're reading the same couple of defenders. He's not dropping back and going through a full field progression all that much. Jayden Daniels has one of the highest percentage of RPOs being called in the Washington offense, where it's sort of designed where he'll either, if it's open, he's going to throw it. Otherwise, he's going to hand it off. So he's almost never going to throw it when it's not open. So it's almost always then going to be a completed pass. Like it's smart of Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator, to manufacture plays for him to help him have a high completion percentage and these strong box score performances. But in the NFL, you're going to have to read a defense fully, go through full progressions over and over again. And you're not going to have games like this all the time against the Cincinnati Bengals, where he was under pressure on 4 pass attempts. He attempted 23 passes. 19 of those were from a clean pocket. 4 of them were under pressure. That's a bad Cincinnati Bengals defense that Jayden Daniels was throwing against. A really bad, at least a defense that was playing really, really bad in that game. They were disastrous. Whereas you look at Caleb Williams' passing chart from week 3, it's spread out fairly evenly all over the field. And most importantly, like a lot in the middle of the field. We see a lot of young quarterbacks struggle throwing to the middle of the field. It's harder because, it's harder to tell the coverage in the middle of the field. Like if you're reading just one half of the field, you're basically just reading a cornerback, a safety, and a linebacker. But in the middle of the field, you're reading 2 safeties and a couple linebackers and maybe a slot cornerback, and it's a little bit messier of a read there. And you can see because Caleb Williams is throwing all over the field, you're seeing a lot more full field reads, full field progressions from Caleb to get to his route and to see the field more completely. Like Caleb is being asked to do a lot more of the fundamental things that a quarterback needs to do well to be successful in the long run, whereas Jayden Daniels did a lot of the simple things really, really well, but mostly a lot of the simple things, and that defenses aren't always going to make it that easy on him. And NFL quarterbacking is not always going to be that simple for Jayden Daniels. And so again, not trying to say he doesn't deserve all the credit for having a good game. Like it's hard to do 21 of 23, even just doing the simple things. Like what he did is rare and uncommon, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. But like, am I going to trust that, hey, the guy who had a really easy opportunity to get a bunch of yards and stuff, is he going to be able to do that every week against better defenses? Or maybe the guy in Caleb who didn't play as well, but is having to do a lot of the tough stuff and sort of learn that along the way and be, kind of have to master like the full gamut of quarterbacking and hope that he can get better at doing everything, whereas Daniels is only being asked to do a more limited selection of things within their offense. I think it's credit to Cliff Kingsbury, and like I think Cliff Kingsbury and the Washington offense is much like Justin Fields in Pittsburgh, putting their quarterback in a better position than what Caleb is getting in Chicago. But like Jayden Daniels compared to Caleb Williams, Jayden has a much higher percentage of receivers that are open, like all the receiver route running metrics. Like he's throwing to open receivers like 85% of the time this season. Caleb Williams's was like, I don't have the number in front of me, but it was like 65% of the time. So like Jayden's getting a lot more open receivers, a lot more run pass options, a lot fewer throws under pressure, a lot shorter average depth of target. He's not taking a ton of shots downfield. It's like, hey, Jayden, let's take the easy, short, and intermediate stuff. Kind of like Justin Fields, right? A little bit more, I don't even want to say game managering per se, because he's still throwing a lot and making some very good throws. And he hit a couple of downfield passes. It wasn't all dinking and dunking, but like they're asking Caleb to do everything, and he's struggling with it a little bit. Whereas they're asking Jayden to do a few things, and he's doing those few things really, really well, but eventually he's going to have to do more things. And then we'll see how well he does at those more things. And maybe he'll be great at those more things too. And he'll just have been the better quarterback than Caleb. And we can say, shucks, the Commanders got the better quarterback there. But I don't think we know that after week 3. We don't know that after one really impressive game from Jayden Daniels, but maybe not as difficult of an ask on the front end. And he was able to take advantage of that. Plus, I think he's got a better offensive line. He's played against worse defenses up to this point. Like, I'm not here to say definitively, no, Caleb is for sure the better quarterback. I think he is. But just to say that like a big week 3 from him isn't going to be the determining factor there. And there's a lot of ball game left, of course, of the season and their careers to really determine who the better quarterback is going to be. So let's slow down on saying, Bears should have taken Jayden Daniels. See, he had that one great game. Young quarterbacks have great games, and then the rest of their careers don't always pan out that way. Just how like young quarterbacks have bad games early in their careers, and that doesn't always mean they're going to be bad the rest of the time. So like part of this is just like, hey, let's be patient. And part of it's like, hey, let's look at what Williams and Daniels are actually doing within the box score and say, actually, wait a minute. Yeah, Caleb's got a lot more on his plate and is having to do a lot more difficult stuff, whereas they're making everything easy on Jayden Daniels right now. And in the NFL, it's not always going to be easy. That's why it's most important for Caleb Williams that the comparison is not necessarily to other quarterbacks, other rookies. but to himself. At this stage of the process, it's most important that he's getting better from week to week. And progress is not always going to be linear in that way, but I do want to look at his progress and how we'll pay attention to that throughout this process across the rest of his rookie season and where we're seeing it already, where we need to see more of it. That's next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. They're going to get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So you can bet $5 on anything, any of your favorite sports, not just your Chicago Bears, but WNBA right now, baseball right around the playoff season, golf, the combat sports as well. Or if you want to look at Bears-Rams on Sunday, the Bears are now 3-point favorites at home. Moneyline is -156, and the over-under is set at 40.5 on FanDuel Sportsbook. A $5 bet on any of those, and you're getting $200 guaranteed. Win or loss on your $5 bet, they're putting that $200 right back into your account. So to get that free $200 in bonus bets, just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. It feels a little bit, underwhelming or less exciting. We always want to compare quarterbacks to different people, and to say just compare him to himself, like I sound like his therapist, right? It's like, well, you don't compare yourself to other people. Just compare to who you were the day before and the year before, and look at your own personal progress. But I think especially for a quarterback like Caleb, who has had a slow start and is not in a great situation right now in Chicago, a much worse situation than we expected in Chicago. And a quarterback who the expectations and pressure are so high on, there's not a lot of value in putting him side by side to Jayden Daniels and every week saying, who's the better quarterback now? Who's the better quarterback next week? Who's the better quarterback? And trying to do all that every single time. Let's see at the end of the rookie season, we'll have a better sense of okay, how are both of these quarterbacks doing and who should feel more confident about how, their faith in the guy that they got. But I think the fact that we've seen some progress from Caleb Williams already is a good sign that things are at least on the right track. Maybe even if they're not where we exactly wanted them to be or thought they would be, they're heading in the right direction. I mean, some of it is just even the basic box score stuff. I mean, we were talking a little bit more advanced stats earlier with depth of target and checkdowns and open receiver percentage, but you just look through 3 weeks for Caleb Williams. I mean, completion percentage has been steadily improving. Obviously, the yards took a big jump in week 3. Yards per attempt took a big jump. He scored his first 2 touchdowns. The passer rating has been up. These are not great measurements of exactly how good a quarterback is playing, but it's a start. It's a baseline. It's something that we can all sort of glance at quick and get a sense clearly the good numbers are going up. All right, good. Then the numbers that you want to be higher are getting higher. That absolutely is some measurement, not a very incomplete measurement, but some measurement nonetheless of Caleb Williams getting better. And I think particularly what we saw over the course of this last game against the Indianapolis Colts is where I think there was a lot of progress for Caleb individually, even when the offense as a whole didn't find much of that progress until the late fourth quarter, when maybe the Colts took the foot off the gas a little bit and made life a little bit easier there. But I think a lot of the issues for Caleb Williams right now can be narrowed down into a few small categories. I think even week 1 and week 2, we saw him struggle a little bit with taking too many sacks and trying to do a little bit more escaping than he could get away with in the NFL. And we're already seeing that be less of a problem now. We saw in week 1 3 batted passes, and we're like, is he going to have a big batted passes problem? None in week 2, 1 in week 3. He's getting better in some of these areas that were kind of initial weaknesses that he's kind of had to work through and get over and adjust and figure out, okay, how can I do this better in the NFL? And he's still got areas to keep working on there, but we're seeing some specific signs of growth in those spots. But I also feel if you really need to narrow this down to a couple areas, I think one of the big things that stands out to me is his downfield passing. We've seen, especially in this last game against the Colts, having trouble perfectly dialing in the accuracy on the deeper throws. We mentioned earlier he's got one of the highest deep throw rates, and part of the problem with that his stats aren't better is because he hasn't been accurate enough on those deep throws. Against the Colts, passes that went 20 or more yards in the air, 3 for 10 passing there. 118 yards, 1 interception. So he hit 3 big ones, but missed 7 others, including an interception downfield that kind of hit Rome Odunze in the hand, so it wasn't a terrible throw, but nonetheless, not great on the stat sheet. Whereas all the other throws against the Colts, the throws of less than 20 yards downfield that he targeted at a receiver, he was 30 of 36 for 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's like 104 passer rating or something along those lines. Like super high completion percentage, pretty good yards per pass attempt, 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Like that on plays that weren't deep shots, he had a great game. I mean, that stat line, if he finished the game 30 of 36 for 245, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, that would be a great performance from Caleb Williams. We would all be thrilled. If you saw the box score if you didn't watch the game, you saw the box score, you just saw that. 30 for 36, 245, 2 TDs, 1 interception, over 100 passer rating. Boom. Bears got their guy. What a great quarterback. Like, not quite a Jayden Daniels coming out party, but like pretty darn strong performance there from Caleb. Everything is right on track in Chicago. It's against the Colts, like it was pretty much just the deep shots that were causing the majority of the problems there. If he hits a few more of those, it's a totally different ball game. And he was pretty accurate on the deep ball in college. Like that was not a major weakness of his. He wasn't like the number 1 in deep accuracy in college football last year, but he was top 10. I think when I looked at the stat, I think he was 9th in downfield accuracy in college football last season. So like he's one of the best downfield passing quarterbacks in college football. I think he'll get there in the NFL. It's just a matter of, getting on the same page as Rome Odunze, which he did on a couple, but missed a couple others. Getting on the same page as DJ Moore. Those downfield passes are particularly difficult to time up because you got to hang the ball up in the air just the right amount of time, put enough velocity, enough air, and I mean that's a little trickier than the underneath stuff. That's a little bit more quick, and you fire it in there, and he can do well moving the offense that way. So I think there's some confidence here that as Caleb gets a little bit more accurate on the deep ball as the year goes on, that everything will settle in just nicely as a quarterback there. And then, he did have the bad interception against the Colts where he just tried to force a pass in there that you can't get away with in the NFL. And that's another area that he's still got to learn more of what you can and can't get away with, and when you can throw a ball off platform and float it to the sideline, and when you just can't, like on the one that got picked off, trying to throw it to, I think it was DeAndre Carter on that play. So to me, Caleb's mistakes in the areas of growth are all like normal rookie stuff, and we're seeing progress on a lot of the other things so far through 3 weeks that I think you can feel confident that you're on track, even if you're not exactly where you would like to be. It's just sort of a matter of how long it takes to dial some of those things in. And of course, you hope the offensive line can keep getting better and make jobs easy. They make life easier that way. You hope they can play some less quality defenses, like, certainly the Texans and the Titans were giving them a lot of trouble up front. The Rams on Sunday should be a great opportunity against the 32nd ranked defense in football. Maybe this is a little bit more of not a coming out party for Caleb just yet, but yet another sign of steps forward. He's probably not going to have another 50 pass attempt game. I hope not. He's probably not going to have another 363-yard game. They shouldn't need him to pass that much. You should have a game where he doesn't have to pass nearly as much. You can run the ball better, and he can be more like Justin Fields or Jayden Daniels in terms of just ask him to manage the game. Make his life easier. You don't want to have to ask him to do so much, but I think the amount they've asked him to do helps explain some of why it's been a little bit of a slower start for him than some of the other quarterbacks, and it's not quite exactly where you'd like to see. Plus, you don't have a running game. Plus, you've had injuries at receiver. Plus, the offensive line hasn't been good. It just hasn't been the right formula, and I think that's why you get some I don't even want to call them doubts. It's just more like fear, of wait a minute, is this everything okay in Chicago? What's going on there? Relax. We can be patient about it. We can get through this. We just need give him some time. And there's an easy stretch of games coming up here on the schedule that should help open some of those things up for the Bears offense. No matter what Caleb does over these next few games, you can be sure we'll break it down for you right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're looking for a second listen, now that we're wrapping up, check out the new Locked On NFL. 2 shows every day now. First in the morning, you get Tyler Rowland, the madman, bringing you your shot of NFL espresso to start off your day with some energy. And then come on back in the afternoon for The Barbershop with Tony Wiggins, breaking down all the biggest storylines in the NFL with the help of our Locked On NFL Podcast Network hosts, bringing you some local expertise on each of the teams they're talking about. It's a great new Locked On NFL show. I highly encourage you to check it out. Then come down back on Monday and make Locked On Bears your first listen once again. And in exchange, I will always give you another opportunity to bear down.